Be focusing on their own thing, if anything, when you kind of hear that tricky.
It's 2018 now. As cross-country season ends, the new year begins, and it's time for track. Much like previous years, my main focus is centered around the 3200. The 1600, it would probably be considered my second best event, but when it comes to what I'm thinking about, what I'm prioritizing, what I'm setting my goals for, it kind of revolves around the 3200 because at this point, I still consider myself to be pretty much purely a distance runner, and I center on a goal that I think is reasonable, and that is breaking 9. Everything really becomes about breaking 9 this season, as I was 9:17 as a freshman. In my first race, sophomore year, I was 9:15, and I didn't really get to see that season through. So I thought, it's junior year now, we're getting to the end of my high school career, and getting sub 9 I think is gonna be important for being competitive on the national scene. Another thing on the radar is New Balance Nationals. I went there as a freshman, and the only race they had for freshmen there was 1600. So I raced okay, but I wanted to go back for a full 2 mile, and I wanted to race well. So my team and I flew all the way up north to the Ocean Breeze Invitational to race a 2 mile to try and qualify for New Balance Nationals. The qualifying time was 9:20, and I opened up the season with a 9:18, which isn't a PR, but it's a pretty good start, especially considering I won the race by a decent margin, but still got the qualifying time that I needed. And then I don't race the 3200 for a while. By the time that the first opportunity to run a 3200 comes around, it's my school's biggest home meet for track in the Bulls Bulldog Classic. And in this race, I run 9:04 with a sort of local Georgia runner, Jacob McLeod, that would come down to Florida a lot to race. And he was a phenomenal athlete and still is. And he and I went through just right at that 9-minute mark. I think he was like a second above me in that race. So then I know it's possible. If I can run 9:04, I could definitely break 9. Even though I'm confident that it can happen, it hasn't happened yet, so I don't want to step off the gas. 7 days later, we head up for the New Balance Nationals indoor meet that I qualified for at Ocean Breeze. And there I run a 9:09 for the full 2 mile on a 200-meter track. It was a bit of a tough one in terms of results. I really wanted to be an All-American as a junior, which is top 5 at New Balance indoors. And I was 4th in my heat, I believe, but our heat went out really slow, so I ended up getting bumped all the way down to 9th. It was just a really tough one because it was the first time where my performance in the actual race I was running wasn't purely dictating how I finished in the meet. And it kind of taught me a lot about making sure I'm aware of the competition and not to become hyper focused on it, but I can't just confine my mind to like what I'm used to in terms of just racing against the guys next to you, because it even happens in the professional level. I mean, Drew Hunter, I think it was just last year, he won the 2 mile from the second heat just by racing a really gutsy race. So that was a good takeaway from that race, but it was still a bit of a bummer, but the goal of breaking 9 was still alive. And so a couple weeks later at the FSU relays, I run 9:01.11. So 9:01.11, it's both great and obviously a little frustrating. It's so good to be that close to 9 flat very early in the season, but at the same time, obviously it hurts a little bit to be so close and still not have it. Just a couple of weeks after FSU relays, I'm planning to head out all the way to California to race Arcadia, which has an historically incredibly fast 2 mile. So I know that I've got the 9:01 in the legs. I'm going to race in great conditions, and I'm gonna race incredible competition. And so I head out there with my single intent of breaking 9, and I get to the race. And it's crazy, I'm racing absolutely phenomenal runners. I mean, after NXN and Foot Locker, I still have a little bit more confidence, but racing guys of this caliber is still pretty new to me, especially compared to racing back in Florida. So it's scary, but it's also very exhilarating, and I know what I want to do, and it's nice to have a very singular goal like that. So I get to the race, and I'm up against all these crazy guys, and it goes out, and I don't really know if I'm gonna get it. I'm chasing and chasing, and the times just start to fade, and the noise like drowns out, and I'm just hanging on as long as I can. And I remember just getting to that last lap and going absolutely all out, even though I was absolutely dead. And I ended up running 8:58.78, and it was just an amazing feeling. I got back to the little camp I'd set up with my back and stuff, and all my teammates were sending me words of encouragement from across the country. My parents were there. My coaches were sending me congratulations and even more encouragement. And it was just a tremendous feeling because it's so nice to have that big seasonal goal and to really accomplish it. So after I'd done that, the next thing on my radar was the state championships. I wanted to win. I was racing the 1600 as well, and it was kind of more of a secondary thing at that point. My main focus was to win the 3200. My main rival is in my district, which means it's in my region and obviously in my state, and I beat him at districts and regionals, and so I feel pretty confident. This is Nathan Jubron I'm talking about, by the way, a phenomenal distance runner. He now runs at UNF. In cross country and track, we had a rivalry that spanned multiple years, and this was his senior year, so I knew he was gonna bring a lot to the table, and he ended up beating me at the state championships, and it hurt. I mean, I think every competitive distance runner wants to win every race, and to have won districts and regionals and gone to state and come second, that was obviously not ideal. But he ran a phenomenal race. It was really gutsy. It was like 90 something degrees outside in the middle of the day. In the end, it came down to a sprint finish, and he had more than I had. I think I learned a lot from that defeat in terms of, I never like extremely underestimated Nathan, but I think I got a little bit too much confidence from districts and regionals. I'm not sure I saw Nathan as the threat that he really was. And once we passed Stanford in the middle of the race, I think that I got a little bit too comfortable and I wasn't really aware of the final push that he would have had. And so it's full credit to Nathan. He ran an incredible race. And so I ended up breaking 9, and even though I didn't win the state finals, I still came second in outdoor, and I came 4th in the 1600, which is great. I mean, it's a great spread for a junior, but I think that really set me up for wanting to win as much as I could senior year. Now, senior year cross was kind of a feeling that it's almost impossible to express. The end of sort of 6 years. 6 years of work, 6 years of bonding with my coaches and teammates, and just this tremendous journey that was completely unexpected. It was finally unraveling in this last year, and I was so excited to see how it ended, but at the same time, I didn't want it to end. I was having so much fun, and while I've been so lucky to be able to continue racing cross country and track in college, it doesn't have the same complete like Wild West randomness nature of having a kid like Alex Hastings or Cameron Kahn just walk onto the team and be varsity. I mean, that's probably not gonna happen at a program like Stanford. So it's just so much craziness had happened, and there's so much to look back on. Heading into the season, it had to be special. It had to be a great finish. And while that was exciting, it did put a lot of pressure, not just on myself, but on the whole team, because we'd all had our own respective journeys and we all wanted to do great things. I really wanted to break 15, and I really wanted to do well at Nike Cross Nationals. And I think as a team, we had similar goals, as in we'd made it to Nike Cross Nationals the year before, but we know that this year was our year to be the strongest we'd ever been in the time I was at Bulls. We didn't want to just get there. We wanted to race well enough to do service to the program that we'd all built together. We wanted to leave that legacy, and sort of that became the mantra of the season, was what are we going to leave behind and how are we going to end out this journey? And so I opened up the season in a 15:33, which is a good time. I think we were being a little more conservative towards the end of the season. We weren't really racing for PRs every race like we used to. It was more like racing fast, going for wins, but making sure we built that energy and gained that momentum and really used it to our advantage later in the season. And so then the next race, I ran a 15:55 and then a 15:46. And then at the Great American Cross Country Festival, I placed 4th and I break 15. I run 14:59. And I think that's great. I mean, as I mentioned last time, the Great American Cross Country Festival is the course that we qualify for NXN on. And we wanted to be pretty much guaranteed a spot. We didn't want it to be separated by 7 points like it was last time. So coming 4th was good, but I wanted to be a dominant force in the region to give my team the best chance. So obviously I'd seen the improvement that I'd had from Great American to Nike the year before, so it didn't stress me out. I just wanted to focus on what I could improve from the race, and I think I really took it to heart. They would really help me down the road. In the middle of the season, we decided to go up to Manhattan for the Manhattan Invitational. I think we went the year before, I didn't mention it in the last video, but it's basically like it's a really historic 4-kilometer race in Van Cortlandt Park. So I thought I really wanted to win this historic race and race as fast as I could. And I ended up winning and placing in the 11th best time, I think, in the history. And that's the best part of the race, is you can take your time afterwards and compare to all these legends that have raced it in the past. And so that was just a cool little like side quest type deal for the middle of the season. And just something I thought was worth mentioning. So I'd broken 15 and time was out the window. Now it was just about performance. The next race I run a 16:03 at districts. Then at regionals I run a 14:53. Now this course is crazy. It's in Florida. It's not that far away from us. Every coach that's measured it swears it's 5 kilometers, and I'll just take their word for it. But it's one of the fastest courses ever. I know a lot of our guys PR'd on it, and that ended up being my fastest time ever in high school, because all I had left was state and then the Nike races. So that was a fun one. I mean, it was literally just me out there chugging away at the front, and it ended up just being crazy fast. It was awesome. Our next race was state, and I was able to win the state meet by a pretty decent margin. And while that's all great, what was amazing was our team performance. I think it was one of the lowest team scores in Florida history. Our top 3 was 1, 2, 3. It was just a phenomenal performance. And then all we have left is the Southeast Regional and Nike Cross Nationals. We were ready for the Southeast Regional. We'd raced it already. We had confidence from the year before, and we raced really well. I mean, we qualified by a huge margin compared to the year before. I won the meet in a 15:04, and I think everyone rose to the occasion. I mean, it was a really important race for everyone, not just as individuals, but as a team. We just put it all out there, and it was an incredible feeling. I mean, we're going back to Nike. Before, no other Florida team had placed above 18th in the history of the Nike Cross Nationals, and we placed 18th the year before. So we just wanted to be the best Florida team at Nike in history. And after placing so well at the region, we were confident and we thought we could really do something special. And so at Nike Cross Nationals, it was a strange kind of mix of emotions. I ended up running like 9 seconds faster than I did the year before, but placing 5 places worse. The competition was incredible. And so while I was happy that I improved, improvement's always great. Obviously I was upset that I wasn't top 10 like I was as a junior. And it was a little confusing because I'd known I'd raced better. Sometimes that's just how it is. And I think a lot of guys had great races just like that. And we ended up placing 9th as a team, which is 9 places better than any Florida team has ever done. That's a tremendous achievement. And I think our team was so full of guys who were really driven that even then, after getting that, we still weren't 100% satisfied. And I think that's just how the sport is. I think if you ever get satisfied, it makes it really hard to do the sport in the future. So I think by staying hungry and staying motivated, it was good for us. But looking back on it, I acknowledge that 14th place in the country is still great. 9-second improvement is still great. 9th in the country as a team is amazing, and 9th place is better than any Florida team has ever done. It was a beautiful way for the whole journey to end, not just individually, but as a part of this program that I joined as this tiny kid from London who didn't know anyone in the country. I'd grown into just a part of this brotherhood who had achieved something truly great, and it was a beautiful moment. And even though we didn't win the meet, I think that performance alone is something to be truly proud of. As we end our cross-country season, it becomes this weird, it's like a crazy feeling transferring into your last track season, because I mean, cross-country was over like that, so knowing the track is coming up, it's like once that's over, this whole high school thing is done. But again, I think this was the first year where I started allowing for the mile a little bit as well as the 2 mile. The 2 mile was still my main focus, but I really wanted to do well in the mile because I knew I had a chance to win at state, and I just wanted to start incorporating things that I was less comfortable with rather than just completely hedging my bets in what I thought was my previous best race, which was the 3200. I remember my dad talking to me about it, where he just said there's no need to like constrict yourself and tell yourself that you're not a miler, because you're the only one who can decide that. It's basically just saying like, don't burn that bridge when there's no need to. And so this year, I felt like I finally had the pace and the legs, and I felt like I could do both. So I opened up the season in a 909, and while 909 is still good, obviously I'm gonna have to run a lot faster to improve on an 858. And the next race is then the New Balance Nationals full 2 mile, and I really want to get All-American. I was still sour over the way I hadn't gotten it the year before, and so I wanted to make sure I was locked in on my heat, the heats before, and just made sure I had a great performance. And I remember I was racing with my current teammates, Devin Hart and Ryan Oosting. I wanted to put out a really good performance with my new teammates that I was gonna be racing with in the future, and sort of show as many people as possible how strong our Stanford class really was. And we ended up going 1, 2, 3. I was third, Oosting was second, and Hart was first. And it was just really cool because it was just the three of us, absolutely crushed that race. It was just something that, even though I was sad that high school was coming to an end and I was leaving behind all these friends and teammates and coaches, I knew I was gonna have some awesome teammates and a lot to look forward to in the future. So third was great. I was finally All-American, and I'd had a great experience that got me excited for college. The next race was the Arcadia Invitational. This race was insane. I remember it was the race where Cole Sprout and Nico Young went absolutely nuts, around 840s each. And the race just went out so fast, like 422. And I just hung, I was just hanging. I was just trying to stay competitive, and I think I just got caught up in the excitement of the event, and I ended up placing 4th at Arcadia, and I ran an 849.62. And obviously that time was nuts. That was 10 seconds faster than my PR from the year before. And then the craziest thing was, I get back, I had no idea about this information beforehand, but I get back and I find out that that's the Florida 3200 record for all time. I had gotten it by like a millisecond or something. I just snuck under there. I think it was 850 before. And it blew my mind. I wasn't even going for it. I just was so lucky that I had the right push at the right time at the end, and a great first mile thanks to some great competition. And it all just worked out. It was amazing. And I think it's a testament to just sort of always giving it your all, because you never know what's gonna happen. And to come away with a state record, who knows how long it'll stand, but without even going for it was so cool to me. After that was settled, I'd gotten my goal of PRing, and now I was focused on winning the 3200 and the 1600 at state as an individual, and also winning the 4x8 as a team. I won the 1600 and 3200 at our district and regional meet, thus qualifying for state. The first night, as you'll have seen if you watched the last video I posted, I pretty decisively won the 3200. I ran a 917, which felt like a nice callback to my 917 for freshman year. I just tried to do it as controlled as possible so I could have the most energy to get my teammates in the 4x8 and to give me the best chance of winning the 1600. Well, I probably could have gone faster. It felt like a great tactical move, and I was really happy that it got rewarded with a good time and a great placement. And so I finally got my first individual state championship in track, and I was just looking forward to the next day. The 4x8 was an unfortunate result where, even though my teammates and I gave it our all, it just wasn't there on the day. And so after being a little tired out from that, it was kind of scary heading into the 1600 because I didn't know the competition that well. My teammate Chase Rivera was in the race, and he's an absolutely ungodly miler. There was a lot riding on it, and I didn't know how much I had left in the tank. The race went out super fast. Robert Pedroza went out way in front. He was in front for the whole race until the very last 200. I was able to slowly close the gap in the last lap and pass him down the home stretch, and I successfully won the 3200 and the 1600 at state, and it was honestly the perfect way to wrap up my high school career. A week later, I'd gotten the fastest time I wanted in the 3200, and I went for it in the 1600. Our school record was, I think it was 409. So I was going for 408, I think. I went out, I felt really good at 400, really good at 800. I don't know how this goes for everyone else, but right at that third lap of the mile was really difficult, and I just had so many teammates, family and friends cheering me on. I was able to muscle through that third lap and just gun that last lap, and I ran 407.3. After that, I went to Music City Distance Festival. I ran a full mile in 407.7, so improved. That's technically like a 406 1600. So that whittled the record down even further. And then I ended up getting invited to Brooks, where I ran the 3200. I placed 7th, and it was great, but honestly, all that stuff was just a bonus. The season had already turned out so well, and it was so long, especially going all the way into June. I was overwhelmingly surprised and happy with how wonderfully it turned out, because there was so much buildup and so many great things that had happened throughout my entire career that was leading up to this senior year. I didn't know how it could end up in a way that was like truly satisfying and gratifying to the experience I had already had. And to see it actually happen somehow, it's beyond me being able to describe it with words. But all I can say is that I'm just so thankful for the journey and how it all worked out. And so that's my entire career. All of it has contributed to why I've loved and continue to love the sport. And I'm continuing to have these amazing experiences in college. Just now I'm actually documenting them, so I don't have to do them all in this big format. Maybe I'll add a part 4 down the road, who knows. Thank you guys for listening. It was honestly an amazing experience for me to just talk through so much history, because I feel like if I don't go back and do stuff like this, I just forget about it, which is unfortunate. Videos like this allow me to experience some of the most amazing things that have happened to me in my short time on this earth so far. And I just really appreciate you guys being here. So thank you so much if you made it this far in the video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like or even subscribe, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And I look forward to seeing you guys again soon.